All right, so thank you for joining us. We are doing a case study, which I'm super excited about. We're going to be doing a case study with Kellyanne, who I'll introduce in a moment. And our intention for this case study is to inspire you to be able to start to be more empowered to look at your business from the inside out. So we're going to be looking at a very specific offering that Kellyanne has, and through the lens of looking at her gifts and her purpose, the inside, to see what she can tweak in her offering to make it create deeper transformation from her clients, be a more powerful expression of her purpose. And that's essentially what the power of the inside out approach is. So the inside out approach, we find that for those who are ambitious, but who are also sort of like intuitive, feeling-based people, they really like the inside out approach because it feels right to their insides. Like it feels like, yes, this for intuitive, feeling-based, ambitious entrepreneurs, they need things to feel right in order for them to do it. And so that's why we're looking for the inside out. So, and the reason is because it allows you to create your business in a way that feels, where everything feels really right to you, whether it's your marketing or the specific offerings that you have. And if you feel good about your offering, you feel good about your marketing, you're more likely to do it, which means you're more likely to create success from it. So that's the overall big picture. And we thought we'd do a case study because Kellyanne brought this question up, and I thought this would be a powerful place to illustrate and to demonstrate what this inside out approach looks like. So I've got Michaela Rogers with me. She is my partner and the co-creator of Scale Naturally. If you want to say hi, Michaela.
Hello.
So I'm really excited for this. We're going to be looking at at first, we're going to take a look at Kellyanne's 3 core to her purpose gifts. And if you can find out what yours are, or maybe you already know what yours are, there's a button or a link below this video for you to actually find out what those are. They're 3 different numbers that represent 3 gifts that you're here to share through your business. So we're going to be using that. So FYI, there's that free video that you can access and watch to find out what yours are. So a little bit about Kellyanne before we talk about what we're going to dive into, and then dive right on in. So Kellyanne works with heart-centered, creative supernovas and sensitive leaders, superhumans who want to unlock bigger, better, and now in their business and creative enterprises. So her website, so she's a total magical, powerful, super powerful person. I've known Kellyanne for a really long time, actually. And her website is makebigmagic.com. That's right, Kellyanne?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So super excited to have Kellyanne here and her willingness to be here for this case study. So essentially, I'm going to give a little overview, and Kellyanne can correct me if I'm wrong anywhere. Right now, the way Kellyanne is working with clients in this particular offering she has like a 4-month package where she does this really deep transformational work with her clients. And then once that's done, there's sort of like a month-to-month ongoing process afterwards. Like there's a month-to-month offering. And what we're going to really highlight and look at is that month-to-month the best structure, the best way? Is there something we can tweak or adjust to have it feel better? And there's a particular concern you had with that month-to-month one. Can you share what that is?
Yeah, so what I see is that after the initial process that we go through, and then even clients that do continue the month to month to month, there does come a point where they come up against some challenges or these opportunities for these great leaps and shifts, but they stop themselves because they're like, oh, well, my month is up, when it's really like we're at this next level of transformation, and I don't want them to give up. But yeah, so that's where it is. So it's like, yeah, right. Trying to understand.
This is awesome. So thank you. So this is a great example. Like some people just have month-to-month offerings. Some people just have single sessions. So, depending on where you're at in your business and what you're doing, it's good to see this example. So when you just think about this month-to-month offer, it's like the month-to-month is like the container for it. And inherent within that is like, should I stop? This month is sort of a challenge that can be there. And sometimes that's absolutely perfect. And sometimes it can create challenges, like you said, Kellyanne, they're about to get to this really big stuff, and it's like, yeah, I think I'm done. Let's stop. when
Yeah.
really like this is where the big transformation is going to happen. So that's why we're here, and that's why we're using this as a case study, because it's a really awesome example of a structure in someone's business that's like, is this optimal, is it not? And we're going to look inside, like look at Kellyanne's core to her purpose gifts for inspiration for like, is, you know, maybe there's something more or different, maybe we can tweak what she's doing here so that it actually creates deeper transformation for the client, which is always the goal. We're not just creating offerings just because they're fun, like they must serve the client while also expressing everything that Kellyanne has to share with her clients. So those are the two things we're always going to be balancing with the inside out approach. And yeah, again, if you want to find out your 3 core to your purpose gifts, there's a video called Own Your Unique Purpose. The link or the button is below the video. So if you're like, what are mine? You can find that out. Okay, so we're first, yeah, so I'm just going to pull it up actually. I'll share the screen. Okay, here we go. Okay, so case study with Kellyanne. We're gonna first look at her 3 core to her purpose gifts. So can everyone see that? 624. Okay, so all of these 3 core to her purpose gifts are numbers, and each number has a vibration. And I go into all this in a lot more depth in the deep dive video, the Own Your Unique Purpose deep dive video below this one. So you don't have to go there yet. I'll explain what these gifts are. So we've got the 6, the 2, and the 4. So these are energies that Kellyanne has that she's here to share through her business. They're a part of her purpose. They're a part of who she's here to be, what she's here to bring, both in essence form and in practical form with her clients. So 6 is a really amazing number that has to do with the heart. So and the 2 has to do with the heart as well. These are the 2 heart-based gifts that exist. So I imagine, Kellyanne, that the work that you do with your clients has a lot to do with emotions. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yeah, like it's not mental and logical. It's
not
more
at all.
emotional, like heart-based and feelings.
It's like the core is starting at the heart. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And like you're going to think that's the approach. You have to look at the heart, because to you, that's what you're here to do with people. For you to start with their mind, it would be really weird. It would be way off base. So these are very heart-centered energies. They're different though. The 6 is more like having balance and like family and belonging type energy and that type of feeling. And then the 2 is more like this. So 6 is more like a group or a community or a family kind of energy. So issues around belonging can come up for sure. And then we've got the 2, which is more like one-on-one type of relationships or issues that come up. So for sure, I would imagine there's lots of different wounding and stuff that you're working with your clients on around that, because we're often wounded by people or in relationship. So we can see these different aspects for sure. And when we think about the 2, one-on-one and 2 go hand in hand, right? Because it's like 2 people. If it's like a 1, it's like there's 1 person. I'm doing my own thing and are you coming with me type thing. Versus 2 is like, I'm right here with you. What are you feeling? What's going on inside? And one-on-one is a really good structure for 2, for the gift of 2. Does that make sense?
Totally.
And it's like, what better space to go into emotions than with, one-on-one. So that already is lining up with what you've shared. The work is you've done that. You do the 4-month, which you're really probably getting into all these different things that are going on below the surface. And then you continue the deeper work as you go forward. The 4 is a very different energy than the 2 and the 6. 4 is like a lot more like grounding and practical and earthy. It likes steps to things. It likes processes. Michaela, do you want to share anything about the 4? Because I know you have one. I don't have one.
Yeah, I think the 4 also is really focused on reliability, predictability. Like it likes safety and security. Yeah, so it can definitely be seen as like systems and processes and like practical things like that. But another energy, like each gift is like an entire world, and there's so many different parts to that world. And another part of the 4 is like very safe and secure. Like it likes to value that and prioritize that and have like that safe container, feel like your feet are on the ground, everything's okay.
Right. Well, and this is great. Thank you, Michaela, for adding that. Because when you now look at all three of these together, and this is probably where what's feeling off, Kellyanne, is like you want the safe container that's really secure for them. And them thinking every month, should I stay? Should I go? That's not actually it might not be the right container for those who are on the verge of that major shift, who are ready to go deeper. So make sense? Does that all make sense, Kellyanne?
Oh, yes, definitely. Because it feels like, the door is almost like always open, right? Which it totally is. I'm not keeping anybody captive in my work, but I am here for the transformation. I'm here. And, what Michaela shared about the safety and security, like because of the work that I do, like, I do intend to keep that really, grounded space so that they can do the work. Yeah. So it does feel like there could always be an open door.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So this is really powerful, and I'm just going to stop the share and we'll start talking about these gifts. So what we want to do now is, so now we understand the situation, understand the offering, and we're going to look at how can you more fully express these gifts and serve your clients. That's really the big picture here. So
Yep.
what I really gathered, even just from our first look at your gifts and Michaela's addition, is that you really want to create this really safe, secure space for them to do their emotional healing work, right? So if we look at that is the most important thing for you to fulfill your purpose with them. The gifts we have a recipient. The recipient is our ideal clients, right? So they're not just there by accident. Like you don't have a 4 by accident. The 4 is there because these people very likely need a nice, safe place to like be vulnerable and share what they're feeling and have a space to heal. So that's not by accident. So we want to make sure that that's honored. And that to me is the first flag of like, maybe you're sensing that. And Michaela and I, we are all about going out of the box to look at what can serve. So we can start to brainstorm here and get creative, what we call like creativity vortex, have a little creativity vortex around how else this might look, how you might tweak what you're doing to serve your clients more fully. So we always start inside out. So the inside is these gifts that we just looked at. And again, the essence of them. So you can look at them both, like, and this is for everyone watching, for your own gifts and your own offerings. You can look at each gift individually to see how it's being fulfilled. And you can look at them together as like, if these were all integrated, we have this really powerful, deep one-on-one space where they belong, where it's really safe and secure for them to heal at a really deep level in their heart. So that's essentially what we're trying to do here. And then we're in the business world, so we have to like put practical to that. We have to put structures to that, put things where they can say, yes, I would like to do that with you. Here's my credit card type thing. Like there has to be something that they can say yes to or no to. So I'm just curious if you have any first thoughts, Kellyanne, just from everything we've talked about so far.
Yeah, a lot. Would it initially, so some clarity too about like really owning that piece of coming at that about the heart, like owning that piece that like I know that's where it all begins and how powerful our heart space is. We've got this entire vortex of energy that from past experience we've closed off, and even as humans we're afraid to share who we are. But like when we let that go, I mean, oh my God, magic life happens. But then to tie that into what you're saying is that so the structure, because of I know how deep we go, and it's not always about the healing, but also about like how does that also become an expression. So some clarity I'm getting is that maybe the one-on-one work is maybe it is more group stuff, and the one-on-one work is for a longer commitment. So that's some things that popped up as you were talking.
Yeah, and I love that. I wanted to first hear your thoughts before we then kept going. I love that because there's a couple things. One thing I didn't share, but the 4 is like also this really, you would be this very stable person with them. And when I think about heart stuff, like I've done a lot of healing in my life. I've had a lot of trauma, in my childhood, a lot. So when I think about heart, like depending on the person, it can be years actually. And if you have that stable person who's with you on that journey of like accessing that and expressing what's in their heart, like it's just even that alone, it's like, yeah, maybe that's a longer process. Like that's a powerful awareness. And one thing I'll add to that, and then we'll just keep going, is the 6. Those who have a gift of 6, we've found this, that often there is a journey over time. So with 6, it's like that's where the group thing can come in for sure. And also there's this connection over time. So I've got 2 6s, and that I've known you for how many years, right? Like so many years. And so many of my clients that I've known years ago, I'm still like, how are you? It's stuff like that's 6, because it's very like, hey, you belong, and like, I remember you and you care and all that. Right. So that 6, right? So like often inherent within the 6 is this energy of continuity and like working, that you have more to share over time. Because I can imagine what you do in the 4 months isn't all that you're here to do and all that you can do with a person. So that might be something as well. When I saw the 6, I was like, there might be more to Kellyanne than she even has room to share about in that 4 months to like monthly structure. So I love it.
Yeah, that's why it's like that. I see the consistency of like they step into the 4-month container and then we do continue, but then it's like that point where they're like,
right.
So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And my first thought, and then I'll see what Michaela's thoughts are. My first thought on like structuring this and tweaking the second piece is I would really look at, like, if it was me and I'm looking at your gifts, that for some people, they're on the verge after this 4 months of like big transformation. So I would look at, are there ways to assess that after the 4 months to get a feel and identify, because those people probably need a different container. And maybe for those people, they need a longer container. Like maybe it goes to 6 months or a year type thing rather than months to month. And even with that, it can be there's a longer container with the option to stop it versus month to month where they're deciding every month. So those are just my first thoughts on the tweaking the structure.
Yeah.
Right? Because like, especially with the stability and the safety for those people, and it might not be every single person, now you got to do like 6 months or a year. There might be legitimate people who, and maybe you might have communications around this where it's like, you're either in this camp or this camp, and we're going to be aware if you ever switch from like, everything's going pretty good to, whoa, we're on the verge of some big stuff, and even having communication around that so they can watch for it, you can watch for it, you can have conversations about it, rather than it being about, do you want to work for longer? It's about their experience. Yeah, Michaela, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well.
Can you just quickly share, Kellyanne, like the when you first created that 4 month and then month to month structure, why was that initially created? Like, what were your thoughts on that, or where did that come from?
So my initial thoughts on it. So at first, I mean, I've been doing this for nearly 20 years now. And so it's definitely evolved. And even so in 2020, it was 3 months. And this year I was like 4 months. So it came from seeing what Kellyanne just said, is that there is it's a transformation journey. And depending on where people are, because it could be layers, or we could get through it pretty quickly. And then, the 4 months they're done. But to me, that 4 months feels like, I don't know. So the 4, a solid container. Yeah. But I'm open. So I know for myself, I'm open to working with people for a year, but I know that I have some stuff around, like, do people want to commit for that kind of, because it could feel really big if somebody's in a lot of heart stuff or afraid. It could feel really big. I mean, I'll leave it at that. Why do you ask?
Just curious where it came from, if it came from a mentor kind of saying, do this, or where that initial structure was kind of birthed from, if it was your own intuition. And it sounds like it was. So that's good, which means that there's likely like clues in how you set it up that we don't want to like just throw that out and be like, oh, that's not going to work at all. Because if your intuition was like feeling that initially, there's some things that are very right about that. And likely what I'm feeling is the container energy of like, there's this deep transformation, and with the heart stuff, it's like, sign up with me for a year. And that could feel too vulnerable and too like, oh, I don't know. Whereas if you give them kind of an end of like 4 months, it's like, I feel like I can see that. I can see light, you know, at the end of the tunnel type thing. So that's really cool. And maybe it is the transition into monthly that there might be a tweak in there in terms of how you're even communicating that transition. Because you've talked about, I don't know, but on this call, it's been like deciding month to month if they're going to stay. And that for sure doesn't feel stable or secure. But also, even when I'm paying for something monthly, that's not how I think about it. So I don't know if it's a mindset thing as well, or if it's a ideal client thing. Because when I'm paying for something monthly, I consider it like it's just a monthly payment, but I'm using the thing. I'm not deciding month to month if I'm going to cancel or not. And that might be like there might be something internal kind of going on there that feels like you're trying to prove month to month that they should stay, rather than also painting the picture of the entire transformation. Because like, so we have another client where it's similar in terms of there's this transformation, that there's kind of an endpoint where they reach this new threshold in their life, or like they've gotten to this certain point, and then there's a big journey after that that's like becoming, where they're becoming this different version of themselves. And that is like, she's kind of set it up as like a monthly payment, but it's more about that this is a long journey. And so we're just going to stay in this together, you know, as you go through this journey, if you want to. But it's not set up as like a month to month decision. It's more that like you're on this journey, and they've bought into that end transformation that could be 3 months down the road, 12 months down the road, 2 years down the road, 4 years down the road. It hasn't got a timeline because it's their personal journey to become this new version of themselves. And they've bought into that, not into the month to month idea. So I'm not sure if it could be a tweak in the communication of that transition.
I think that's what, I think you nailed it. I was like, that's exactly it. It's like, it's about like painting the picture and right. So it's like shifting from that feel that could be a very like big, vulnerable commitment, or too long. Cause even for the 4 months, sometimes I have clients that are like, oh, I can't do that.
That's scary.
Yeah. And so, but again, it's like, it might be ideal client stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say that too, that there could be an ideal client thing here. And there's a whole other layer, which is something we do called brand essence, where we look more at ideal client type stuff. But really, it could be a good exercise. I encourage you to have a look at your ideal clients through the lens of like their qualities and their essence, because your ideal clients are likely going to be like, it's going to be based on what's resonating for you. Like, you're the only one that's going to know this, but are your ideal clients the ones that are scared at the 3 month? Is that okay? Like, is that like, actually, yeah. Okay. So it's not, so then that's not an ideal client. So you don't change your structure now to work for a non-ideal client. You say, this is my ideal client, and they are in for 4 months or 6 or whatever it is. Really get into the place of like, who is this client? And who is it that you want to work with? And then what is going to resonate and align with them, which is likely going to align with you, which is what we find. Like, your ideal client aligns with how you then structure your model. It's all really like connected, but we definitely get into the habit of like trying to make our business model, make our offerings fit an ideal client. And that's like maybe a clue that they're not actually your ideal client. It's just that you want clients, but like very different things. So yeah, so yeah, if it is your ideal client, like tune into them, see what kind of that first container. And then I really like the safety, and the safety of the 4. You're painting a container of the journey from here to wherever here is. And that is the container, rather than painting the container as monthly, less secure. Where monthly like works in terms of setting the container of monthly is if they don't you don't care if they leave or go or whatever. But for you with the 6, it's about like family, you know, and belonging, and them feeling safe to be on this journey and connected with you for a long time, rather than, you know, month to month deciding if they're in or out. That's does not match
Totally.
at all.
No, not at all. Thank you.
And that could be an ideal client thing too. It could be a container safety thing. It could be an ideal client thing, that your ideal clients are on for the journey. Like, yes, they have that little container, they feel safe, and then they have some kind of a moment that they're like, yeah, I'm in for the journey, you know? And that's likely going to be your ideal client, rather than them being like, oh, I'll test it out for another month and I'll go for another month after that. That's not, they weren't your ideal clients to begin with, likely.
Right. Yeah, I think that communication piece, I'm seeing the painting the whole picture.
The last thing I'll say on the 4 is that, like, the 4 can often be seen as like lists and steps and stuff like that, but it's because it creates safety and security. So you can also ask the question of what other ways create safety and security, and then be implementing those as well, rather than like, it's not just lists. Lists just happen to be one way that people with 4 often feel safe and secure.
Awesome.
Cool. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a first look at looking at some clues from the inside and how it can shape things and shift things. Just looking at the gifts. So that's awesome and powerful to look at. And if you're watching, you're like, well, what about my offerings and what about my gifts? And again, check out the Own Your Unique Purpose video below this video to find out what yours are, and just start getting your mind into this inside out approach. And to me, like, it just feels better. And you can feel, like, I can see with Kellyanne, you have this heart and you really care and you're sensitive to their feelings and all of that, because that's who you're here to be. And to have the offerings actually do the same thing, like, that's ideal. Like, my last thought was, okay, for your totally ideal clients, what would be the natural next step after 4 months? And designing that next step for those people. Right? That's another thing, rather than for the people, oh, let's keep them on, that might not be the most ideal. So, and what happens when you go ahead?
Or they may be complete, you know, there may be a completion. Yeah, exactly.
There are people who are going to complete after 4 months. And also, and this is what opens up to other discussions, which is beyond tweaking, which is like actually designing intentionally. Is there more for you to be doing than just these 2 pieces? And I mean, your model might already have other things, but this is where I start to look at other pieces. Where is there a different way to serve? Because the 6 is a clue that your people don't really leave. You know, they don't have to leave, right? So scale naturally, we literally you never have to leave. Like, our clients never have to leave, because there's ways to support them on the whole journey that we've designed intentionally. So, and because I have double 6 and I don't like when the clients leave, unless it's just time, then of course that's fine. Like, you're allowed to leave. but
we'll still be friends. Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. I'll still care and cheer you on and all that. Yeah. So just that becomes more of the broader picture of, like, actually intentionally designing, and do your offerings capture all that you're here to do? And on that note, we're going to now look at Kellyanne's. So these are the 3 core to your purpose gifts. You can find out what yours are in that free video. And what I learned, it was for like over 20 years, I was analyzing like every single person that I knew for what makes them unique, what their gifts are, what makes them who they are, and what is authentically them. And out of that experience, these 3 core to your purpose gifts are a part of it. But out of that experience, I learned that there's more to someone than these 3 gifts. There's a lot more to someone. So there's actually 4 more gifts that are a part of a person, and all 7 of the gifts form what I call your natural design. And that's it gives a fuller picture of the full complexity of who you are. And it's often very illuminating and like shocking sometimes what the rest of the numbers are, because those, you really want to incorporate those into your offerings as well. So we're going to look at Kellyanne's, what her first 4 gifts are in her natural design, and see if that sparks even new ideas that we hadn't thought of. And and keep going with this inside out approach. Okay, so I'm sharing that. So we've got these, and I've left this blank because this is where her first 4 gifts go. So we're just going to scroll on over to that. And you look here, and all of a sudden Kellyanne's got a lot of different like double numbers and stuff like that, master numbers. But you can see that in addition to the 624, she's got like 3 threes here. She's got a 22, which is a master number. It's super powerful. Another 4. She's got an 11, which is another very powerful number. And again, these 3 threes. So these are very different energies. And I'm just going to highlight super briefly what they mean. As Michaela mentioned before, we see each number as like a world, and so much goes on in that world. So I'm just giving like little tiny highlights, but there's obviously a lot more to it. So 3 is like expression, spontaneity, creativity, being a channel of wisdom or inspiration or communication. It's a really powerful speaker energy for those who speak or have a message to share. Even on social media, those who have a message, right? 22 is this, it's 22/4, so it's got the practical earthy 4 mixed with the double 2, which is people-focused emotion. When you have this kind of energy, it starts to shift. It becomes more like bringing people together, right? So bringing people together in really powerful, tangible ways, or it can be systems or processes to handle emotions, for example. So thinking of Kellyanne, that could be like thinking outside of just the tweaking, and or maybe it is a tweak, adding in processes that people can use, or like little touch points, like little checklists they can do every week around their emotions or whatever. Like that can be a part of this so that you're really empowering, which leads me to the 11. 1 is a very individual, empowerment focused energy, but when it comes together in 11, it becomes this like really illuminating, inspiring energy, shining a light in the dark places. So shining a light, of course, on the deeper issues in the world, that can be 11. It can also be shining a light on the dark places in their heart or in their being that they maybe have been too afraid to look at. But when you've got someone with 11, they're like, let's look. And it's nice and safe because it's got the 2 attached to it. And you look deeper. And then again, more 3s and another 6. So even though I say there's 7 key gifts, in certain cases, there's multiple numbers within them. So in the box is what you're here to do. These are the gifts that really lend yourself to like the doing part of your business. And the first 3 are really around the presence and the qualities you're here to bring. But definitely we always consider them in making any tweaks to any type of offering as well. So looking at all this, first, I just want to say there's a lot more going on here. And when I see the 3 threes, the 11, and the 22, but the 3 threes and the 11, when I see that, I'm like, is all of your work one-on-one? That's my first question. And is it right now? The paid work?
Yeah, right now it is. And I actually, so Saturday I'm doing a group. So I feel like I'm being led back into it. The way that I had my group, so in 2019, I did a new group every month. But the way that was structured was just like too much administrative stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm finding ways to come back to the group.
Cool. Yeah, and not that you should, there's no shoulds from us ever, because you can capture all this energy one-on-one. You're going to be super inspiring and illuminating. You're going to also have lightness. Like let's bring the 3s have lightness. Let's bring the lightness in with the pain and like, let's laugh. Right?
Yeah. Laughter is my medicine, definitely.
Right, exactly. So that's a part of it. So it's not that you shouldn't do one-on-one only. Like that's not ever, we don't tell people what to do. We just look for inspiration here. However, in a group, we've got like 6 as a group or a community. We've got 3 as like expressing a message that could go out to more people. So of course that can happen in your marketing as well. And even the 22 is like people coming together. Who's the guy who invented Facebook? I should know this name, but
Zuckerberg.
Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg. He's got not in his 7 key gifts, but in one of his like what I call his bonus gifts, like additional gifts. He's got a 22/4, and like look at what he did. He created a structure where people could connect, right?
Right.
So there's different ways this can obviously look. But yeah, so when I look at this, it's like, oh, that's where it's like, okay, you can look at tweaking what you're doing. And when I look at tweaking what you're doing, the first idea was like, oh, maybe like a little checklist for their emotions, like a structure to really handle their sensitivity and their emotions. Maybe there's a guided meditation where it illuminates and it shines in their mind what's going on for themselves. And the 3, maybe the laughter piece is more of an actual core part of it that's built in, for example. So that's just an example. Does that all make sense or resonate or spark any new ideas for you?
Yeah, it all makes sense.
Cool. Michaela, do you have any thoughts seeing all of this?
Yeah, there's a lot here. It's
Yeah.
awesome. You have so much, so many gifts and so many cool things to like be able to like strengths and tools to be able to express yourself and feel like really good in your business. There's not, you know, some people's full natural design has a like a real big combination of many different gifts, and some it's surprising have like 2 gifts just like multiple times. And so for you, you definitely have like the recurring numbers going on here, recurring themes, which says that like there's a lot of strength and importance in these numbers. There is, even if you've just got one of something, but like for every gift that you have, there is multiple of that gift.
Right.
So there's a lot of energy and power there. I noticed that the 3 really likes expression in terms of an audience. And that can be like, you know, 1 is individual, 2 is kind of like 2 people, 3 is then social. It's like, you know, like when you're at dinner with 2 people versus 3, or drinking wine with like just you and a friend, and then there's a 3rd friend, the whole dynamic is completely different, right? So that's the energy of 3. And so I don't know if right now in your work, there's any room where you're able to like really express and have a message come through. Any writing, like expression can happen in lots of different ways. It doesn't have to just be speaking, but it could be writing, it could be speaking, just a way for a message to be coming through you. The 3 also really like spontaneity. So if every single thing is like completely structured, which the 4 might like for safety, the 3 would really hate because there's no room for spontaneity and for you to just be in the moment and have like whatever comes through and be able to trust that. So that's where you look at like just the fulfillment part of it, of where are your needs being met and how you're fulfilling. And it's likely that what we see is you meeting your needs and expressing yourself fully is also what your clients need, your ideal clients. So you have this combination with the 3 and the 11, where I would really see this like inspiring message, meditation, some form of expression that is really coming from like magic and source too, which is the 11. Mixed in with the 2 really likes that intimacy of those conversations. So you'll see some people's structures are very back and forth with clients, where you're asking questions and stuff like that. And I'm not sure if that's how you're currently doing it, but if you are, that's great with the 2 and having that intimacy, but we're losing the ability for that spontaneity and messages to come through. And it could be that like an inspiring message comes through at the start of a group call. You know, you share like an inspiring message or something that is spontaneous that comes through. And then there's also room for the intimacy. Also with the 3, it really likes conversational type stuff. So if you were leaning into the group, you've got a mix here because you've got the leadership energy of the 1, which is in that 11, but you've got that inspiring energy, the kind of intimacy energy, and then the conversational with the 3. So it could be cool to be able to make sure that you're able to have room for all of this, either in your entire model, but ideally in everything that you do.
Yeah,
it makes sense. You're going to group. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Any thoughts, Kellyanne?
Yeah, the just owning the part, you know, because I come from corporate as well, right? And you know, I've got a lot of gifts from that. You know, and at the same time shedding that part of like, and I've done it over the years. And so just really like owning this part that I know that I am so good with just showing up and being present and letting it come through me instead of being like, okay, this is what I'm going to talk about today. And it's going to be this, and this. And to me, like, I can find that sometimes that's good structure, but then also just letting it flow feels really good and owning that. And like bringing the lightness, like really like letting my silly, fun aspect come out, especially like in my marketing. I feel like that's where it's like, because when people energetically are drawn to me and we get to, do this fun dance, like they get to see that. I'm not showing it greater.
Right. Totally. And this is it. Like in an ideal world, all of us are fully expressing all of our gifts, like full blast, for the benefit of our clients. Right. And that's really what our gig is at Scale Naturally. That's what we're all about. Like that's why people even come to us in the first place, is that there's more to you, and then how can we express that more fully? So
Right.
yeah, I love this, all of this. And on that note, this there's always like tweaking. So there's two things we look at. There's tweaking, which is like, hey, we can change the energy of this so your 4 is more present and your 6 and your 2, and you can feel that shift. And okay, the 4-month feels good. That's a nice container because people are just coming in and they're maybe a little scared, so you don't want to do too long, right? So you've got all that in there. And then even, okay, how do we bring the 11 in, the 22? That's about tweaking. And some people need tweaks, and that's it, right? Like they're already doing the thing and it's the right thing, it just need tweaks. And in other cases, what we find is sometimes maybe just using you as an example, Kellyanne, is maybe those 3s haven't really got a home yet. Like they're just, a little bit here, a little bit there, or the 22 or the 6s even. Like there's a lot of potential. And this is where we start going into more of a design conversation. Like, how do you design your whole business to make sure you're doing all the things you're here for, which leaves you feeling that feeling of, I'm doing what I came here to do, which is to me a really satisfying, amazing feeling. And also creating the full impact you're here to create in all the ways, because 3 is very leveraged. 6 can be very leveraged. Whereas 2 isn't as much, right? So that's where we start looking at, is there something missing here? Is there another structure that's meant to be in your business? So that's the other piece. If you're looking at your business and you're thinking, okay, can I tweak this? Or is there something else that wants to be born? And if that's the case, then definitely reach out to us, because that is a different process that we do. That is it's very powerful in that we create a really solid foundation first that has got natural design. It's got a number of different components that are all internal pieces to make sure that whatever model goes on top of that, the structure of how you work with clients, matches and captures it all. So anyway, just so you're aware, there's that secondary piece. So if you're feeling like, I want to know, like, I need a redesign, I don't need a tweak, then yeah, definitely reach out to us. So yeah, thank you so much, Kellyanne. This is like a powerful example, which is why I'm like, let's do a case study. So thank you for being game to be part of this and being vulnerable and sharing what's going on in your business. And it's just so powerful for people to see a real example. So any final thoughts, Michaela? And then we'll pass to Kellyanne.
No, I'm just so excited for you. I'm excited to see as you, leave this conversation, just see what lands, what integrates, what feels like doesn't resonate, and keep trusting yourself as like, you're the boss, you're the authority that like knows. And I really think it'd be cool to spend some time on that ideal client, really looking at their qualities and essence and like, who are they like as people? What do they value? Ideal client often is so much like women aged between in this demographic, and it's like, let's like really understand who they are as people. Yeah, and what they value, and like, are they hardcore? Are they like, I'm just in this? Are they super serious and need lightness, or do they have some lightness themselves? That maybe they have been putting a cap on or something like that. So yeah, I'm excited for you. I'm really excited to see what kind of tweaks happen, and then how you feel in your business and with those tweaks, like what difference that makes for you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Kellyanne?
I just feel like this is such a valuable perspective to have a deeper understanding of ourselves. And it's, I've felt a little bit of, I've definitely had some ideas pop in, and then some permission giving of like, I can go into those hard and dark spaces with people and do some really amazing work. And guess what? We can laugh our heads off when we're done. It's like, so owning that piece. And then Yeah, I mean, so much. I'm excited to see what starts to become inspired and how I show up. So thank you so much for this opportunity
Yeah.
to look deeper.
Yeah,
Been really
you're so
valuable.
welcome. You're so welcome. And if you're watching this and you're like, what the heck are my 7 numbers, not just the 3, then when you click on the button for the purpose video, you'll see Own Your Unique Purpose video. There's a way to discover all 7. So you can check that out there. So awesome. Thank you so much, Kellyanne. Thank you, Michaela. That was really fun.
So good.